Today's youth. Researchers tell us they're the most educated, gifted, privileged students in generations. But they're also the least happy, most stressed, lonely, depressed, and suicidal. They're less empathetic, suffer burnout faster, and struggle launching out into their own independent lives.
I started getting phone calls from counselors across the country saying, "You've got to help us." One was from Arizona that said, "We are living in a suicide belt. We have had 40 kids kill themselves in a 20-mile radius within the last 2 years."
Educational psychologist Dr. Michele Borba has never been more concerned about kids, and that's saying a lot. She's been an expert in the field for 40 years and has written 24 books on the topic of raising happy, healthy children. She decided to not only look into the research, but interview all kinds of students from across the country to find out what's going on.
They all described themselves as running on empty. One kid said he felt like he was being raised more as a product than a human being, and all the kids said we're missing the human stuff, how to get along in life, how to handle the adversity. They were the ones who said, "You got to write this, you got to write this."
She wrote and finished a book last March. Then the pandemic hit, which only amplified what she was seeing. Kids are missing out on learning how to be good people. She rewrote the book to include pandemic issues, and now Thrivers is on bookstore shelves. It outlines 7 essential traits that help kids push past adversity and succeed academically and in life, even though you won't find GPA, class rank, and test scores anywhere on this list. But here's the key. These characteristics have to be taught.
I am so concerned about kids, and the parents have got to realize this is doable, but you better start doing it.
In this conversation, Borba shares how we as parents can go about doing that, with tips on how to weave these character lessons into everyday life for all ages of kids.
You can do that one at home, real easy.
She also talks about where these ideas originated.
So I'm talking to the Navy SEALs, and I said, "So what do you guys do?" And he said, "Stuff that you should be teaching kids."
And she discusses the book's many inspiring stories of success.
Oh, I can't even get through it. Every time I'm like, thank goodness I have permanent mascara. But it's those moments that you say you're right on the right track, and it's the moment that confirms confidence really matters. So we have to follow our children's lead, find out who they are, not what we want them to be. And that's what Thrivers do.
Dr. Michele Borba, thank you so much for joining us.
You are so welcome. I'm so glad to be here, Auntie.
Well, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed your book. And take a look. I've got what is called post-it worthy moments. This is not
my parent. This is my author moment. Thank you.
This is for me to reference back. This is not just in preparation for the interview. I mean, there are so many things in here that I want to remember as a parent to do.
Well, number one is don't do them all, or your kid will never let you read another parenting book as long as you live. But choose 1 or 2 of those, because there's 50,000 skills. They're all age oriented. You figure out what's going to work for you and your family. But here's the key. Then do it about a minute a day for at least 21 days, and you'll have it into your family for life. Then you add the next and the next. That's how we raise Thrivers.
That's good advice, because I know there were certain times during the book that I thought, how am I going to remember all this? How am I going to, get this all into, because, everything you want is that your child to turn out is in this book.
Yeah, I think that's it. And thank you for that, because I think we've been putting so much on GPA and test score that we've kind of forgotten the other side of the child. It doesn't mean we're going to stop helping our kid be successful, but we also need to be successful in life. And those 7 traits in Thrivers are the ones that matter most, not just now, but what we now know. Those are the 21st century skills, and Global Economic Summit. Harvard says that the top employability factor. So it's a win-win. Now we parent for the long haul.
You say a couple of times, Thrivers are made, not born. And that's reassuring, isn't it?
It is, because too often I hear from parents that it's locked into DNA or it's locked into temperament, that he's the happy-go-lucky one and she's he's more Miss Sunshine and she's more stressed. Temperament doesn't seem to matter. Social competence does, but you don't need multiple friends. You need one true loyal buddy. And if it isn't the loyal buddy, then it's Great Aunt Sally. It's somebody who's near and dear to your child and says, you got this, you can get through it, sweetie pie, and I'm not giving up on you. But the second thing is these skills that really don't take a lot here, but they do take practice. What we've done, I think, is exercise our kids' knowledge base in the school side, their violin and their soccer and all of those. But we're not exercising problem solving, critical thinking, getting along well with others. Those seem to be the ones help our kids thrive, be employed, get along better with others, live longer, live longer. You want a kid who lives longer? These are the same skills that matter.
Well, you start your book, so it's broken down into 3 sections, and you've got the heart, the mind, and will, basically, right?
I want the whole kid.
The whole thing.
We kind of forgot the whole child, haven't we?
Yeah, it's interesting that you start with the heart. Why the heart first?
Because when I looked at empathy and confidence, knowing yourself and liking yourself, they actually start first. Research says it's empathy that leads to conscience, not the other way around. And we also know that if you looked at the 7 traits, every parent goes, okay, so which one matters most? Which one matters most is helping a child know their strengths, their own loves. What are they interested in? It doesn't matter if those are necessarily the ones that are going to get them into Ivy League, but those are the ones, says Emmy Werner, who's done the most amazing research on resilient children. I mean, what they've actually done, this is like science proven stuff. If they took 700 children who are growing up in enormous adversity, like poverty, schizophrenic parents, sexual, physical abuse, and they followed the same 700 kids for 40 years. Who made it? Already in their teens, they discovered 1/3 of them. 1/3 of them were leading healthy, intact, caring, competent lives. How could that be? Well, they discovered most of them knew their strengths. They used their strengths to compensate for their weaknesses. And here's the other thing that's really interesting. You want a simple thing to do to help your kid? The strengths are ones that help your kid develop hobbies. Hobbies help your kid decompress. They like to read. They like to do woodwork. They like to knit. I don't care what they like. Gravitate towards that. They actually use those for the rest of their lives. Some kids like the violin. Some kids like to draw. If they know their hobby, they actually go towards those, says Emmy Werner, and it helps them cope.
That's that self-confidence that you say is just kind of that foundation for everything, right?
Yeah. And the other thing that's fascinating is we may not like that strength. One of the most interesting things is a dad told me, you won't believe what my kid's strength is. I didn't believe it and buy into it, but he loves wolves. He knows everything and anything there is about wolves. This is in middle school. And I went, how could this be? It's got to be like a little phase. So I decided to have a little Yellowstone trip prior to the pandemic. I arranged him to talk to the park ranger. And my gosh, I sat there with my mouth open. My kid knew as much about wolves as the park ranger. And he politely corrected him about the park ranger. And that was my moment that said, maybe I shouldn't be pushing him into law. I think biology is where this kid goes because that's where he's happiest. Simple little things. Here's a real, when you go, so where do I start? Go to chapter 1. There is a 4-page asset survey. Just take a moment to figure out who your kid is. It'll tell you their learning strengths. You can figure out their hobbies. You can figure out of the 7 strengths, which one matter most to the child. And you can just take a 3x5 card. Here's the other thing. 1 per each child. Walk around the house for the next week. Don't let them know you're watching and start noting what they gravitate towards. I'm not talking Fortnite. What are healthy hobbies that they seem to be more enthused about? Their tone is a little more interested. They hang in there a little longer. They learn it faster. Those are natural strengths. And those are the ones you just help them build. When you finally discover he really does love violin, that's where you put your energy into it. When you finally thought he really does love art, that's where you find the extra clubs and find the extra pricier art supplies. Not all the 50,000 things, but the things he or she loves best.
You actually have something to share with us from that chapter, right?
Yeah, I started out as a teacher way back when. And I tell you, every teacher will tell you this. You learn more from kids than you learn from any psychology book. And one of the kids in my class way back when was Michael. Now, I taught kids with severe special needs. So they were already in my room because they had very, difficult learning problems or emotional problems. And very often a child who's got those kind of obstacles against them isn't confident, and they don't like to show their strengths. They cover them up. And if you praise them, they usually tear up the project because they just don't have that foundation. So I watched this child, and I watched him carefully, and it took me quite a while to figure out, what the heck is this kid good at? And one day I discovered he actually was good at drawing. He forgot to cover it up. He didn't see that I was standing behind him. Usually he hid it. And there was my moment. Now, if I praised him in front of the room, forget it. It would be, I'm never going to do it as long as I live. So instead, I gave more art opportunities in the class. I found a parent who could come in and teach art because it wasn't my forte. And slowly, Michael began to shine until one day I asked him quietly, Michael, do you think I can put this on the bulletin board? Do you think I may? I asked him permission. He said, okay. What happened that day, I'll never forget it. Other kids started walking around the bulletin board and saying, Michael, you're really good at art. You're really good at art. All of a sudden, he never covered it up anymore. He began to shine a little more in art. And one other thing I did that I pass on to parents, I passed it on to other teachers. I passed it on to his parent. This is what he loves. Make sure he has opportunities to do this. Well, what happened along the way is he started to slowly win art competitions. And then I lost him. I mean, they go on to bigger levels in middle school and high school, and you always wonder. Years later, teachers, you only need one moment. Years later, I get a holiday card. Years later, I get it. And basically what he does is said, Dear Mrs. Borba, I've been meaning to thank you for being my teacher and for putting my picture up on the bulletin board. I said, don't you know, it was the one moment that it opened up. I just changed my whole view of myself, and I realized that it was okay to be me. I struggled a lot less. And he goes, I just want you to know I graduated from high school. That moment I said and went, whoa, I never expected that. Then he said, I graduated from college. And I went, oh my God. But the bottom line, he said, and Mrs. Borba, I'm doing what I always love. I'm now an animator at I can't tell you what movie studio, but it's huge. I'm an animator, and you may like, and he told me the movie he was working on. I sat there and cried my way through the night going, oh my gosh, you really can help kids shine, struggle less, shine more. That's self-confidence. Michael.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, I can't even get through it. Every time I'm thank goodness I have permanent mascara. But it's those moments that you say you're right on the right track. And at the moment that confirms, confidence really matters. But we have to follow our children's lead. Find out who they are, not what we want them to be. And that's what Thrivers do.
There are so many things that I love about your book. And one of them is these stories that you share are just phenomenal. And some of them are people, that we recognize, Malala, Einstein, Michael Jordan, we recognize those names.
Yeah.
And the stories that are so sweet are the ones that are from your students or that you've done the research on. And those are the ones that I just love. Like the kids that are in high school that in the integrity section that they did this research project. What a fun story.
On Irina Sendler?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I just told that to a group of teachers. Okay. The teacher, if you're a teacher, is Norm Kennard. He teaches in Kansas, and he is convinced that the best way to teach integrity, that would be Thrivers straight number 4. The reason for it, little backlog, is Thrivers have strong moral code. They know what they stand for. So parents, when push comes to shove, this kid doesn't waver. He says, I got this in my head and I know what it's all about. Okay. Norm Kennard believes that the best way to teach integrity is to weave it in. Not like, okay, kids, it's 6:00, let's talk integrity, but find good movies, find good books. And he has one thing that every parent and teacher should have. It's a box, and he keeps just wonderful stories about real people in the newspaper who are glorious examples of integrity. Okay, then he does one other little thing. He always assigns for history, get together in a collaborative group, like a group of 4 or 3, not alone, because kids need to learn to get along. And once you learn to get along and you're in a group, I want you to find a person that you want to share with the rest of us about somebody who modeled integrity in history. So they find this one article, and it's about this woman, ratty old book that was in USA Today. It says here, Mr. Kennard, that it's about Irina Sendler. She isn't even in Google, and she saved 2,500 kids during the Holocaust. How could that be? Norm Kennard does something brilliant. Parents, we need to do the same thing. He says, dig deeper and figure it out. Get the source. Find out who really is the source. No more fake news. No more cut and paste. Dig deeper. So they actually started calling around Holocaust centers around the world and discovered one called back from Poland. Yep, she lives. Yep, she's still alive. Yes, she saved 2,500 kids. Now, what they did on the spot is Megan Felt, I interviewed her, said, we were stunned. How could this be? We immediately wrote to her. Do you know that she wrote us back? And we found out about her. She was only about 4 feet tall. She disguised herself every day as a nurse. She walked by Nazi guards with a dog because they knew that they didn't like dogs. She carried a suitcase. She said it has typhus shots. We have to go in there and give typhus shots to those adults over there, or you're going to get it. So the Nazis said, go, go, go. Once she got in there, she convinced all of the parents to let them save her children. One by one, this woman for months put children into suitcases, coffins, pipes, past Nazi guards, 2,500 kids she saved. The girl said the moment that just impacted them was they found a photo of the children. And I say this because there's a little footnote. Photos, real images of inspiring kinds of real things in the world. Raise your children's hearts. They need those images right now, parents. They're seeing doom and gloom in the world. Show them the good stuff, the good books, the good films. It opens their hearts and they see the goodness. Okay, now they decide to make a play. They're going to show their play, high school girls, and it's called Life in a Jar, because what Irina Sendler also did was tell the parents she would save the children, put them into orphanages or with nuns or homes, and every child's name would be written and put into a glass jar buried under an apple tree. So after the war, she would reunite the children with the parents. 2,500 children were saved. The girls started giving a play. A couple of adults in the community said, if this woman is alive and she's done this, you've got to go meet her. On the spot, they got the girls airline tickets, flew the girls with their teacher to meet their hero in Warsaw. The photo of them hugging is unbelievable. When they asked her, how did you do this? She said, parents, listen, it was how I was raised, says Irina Sendler. Oh, how were you raised? My father said, if anybody was drowning, you must save them. It makes no difference what their race, creed, or culture is. You must save them. And so when that moment came and I knew those children were drowning, I had to save them. That's how you build integrity. That's the moment. Yeah. Those are the kind of stories I think our kids need. And if you can't do anything, get a box in your house, get a box in your classroom, start saving inspirational news articles about real people. There's fabulous books. There's wonderful films, but expose your kids to the good. It also boosts the 7 trait, optimism. It gives them hope. In fact, optimism has help your kid find good finders. Every night, a simple technique is go through the back pages, find children who are doing good, because you're far more inspired as a kid if you're not looking at a 50-year-old, but you're looking at a 7-year-old who's doing good. And then what you do is that you cut them out on index cards. How cool to paste them on index cards, put them on a basket on your dining room table, and every night that's your little, let's talk about the good people. Or right before your child goes to bed, that's the time they're actually most receptive to you. So why not use those opportunities to talk about the good? Your child will actually sleep a little better. And right now, the research is out that they're not sleeping very well because of the pandemic. So help them get those Z's.
Michele, what you're just talking about, that's what I love about your book as well, because you give actions. Like, these are things that you can do, and you have them broken down into age levels.
Yeah.
Right? So you have for the little ones, right?
I'm so glad you pointed that out, because my goal is, look, I think it's critical because some parents are going to go, it's too late. He's already a teen. It's never too late. It's not too late for us. Look about all the resilience building strategies for grownups. So the book is really set up from sandbox to prom. All the ages in between, find what works for your child. But I really do think most parents who are telling me that they're using the strategies in the book are doing them as a family. It's not the kid who needs it, but let's do it as a family. Because the other thing is, really, kids learn skills best by not you telling them about it, but them seeing it. So if you model them together, for instance, in self-control, Angie, one of the best stuff that I ever learned anywhere in the world was working on Army bases. And the commander said, while you're training the counselors, go talk to the Navy SEALs. I said, why? He said, because we are retraining the most elite forces in the world so they can get through the most adverse conditions you could possibly imagine. So I'm talking to the Navy SEALs and I said, so what do you guys do? And he said, stuff that you should be teaching kids. All in self-control. Number one is they recognize their stress signs. Stress comes before anger, before the meltdown, before timeout, before anxiety. So maybe this week, go around and help your kids identify, you know, that every time you start to get stressed, you do this, or I see you grind your teeth, or I see your feet go like this. Ask your kid what your sign is. They always know them. Right before you get mad, Mom, you do that weird thing with your eyes. They know our signs. So how cool to dignify them as a whole family. The second thing is, Navy SEAL said, we spent a lot of time figuring it out. We pointed out to one another. Then what we do is we come up with one line in our head, like calm down or breathe, or you'll get through it. So maybe, parent, start coming up with a mantra and you model it. I'm starting to get frustrated. I need to breathe. If you model it, pretty soon your voice becomes your kid's inner voice. Third thing is so powerful. So powerful when I say this is because UC Berkeley, Madison, Wisconsin, and Navy SEALs, when they're now with their brain imagery, says their brains are being rewired because they're doing this one little thing. It's a 1-2 breath. They recognize their signs. They tell themselves, chill out, or I got this. And then they slowly take a deep breath from here. Oh my gosh. If you do it right, it takes a lot of practice. You feel like you're so relaxed. You take the breath up to your head, then you hold it and you slowly let it out. Slowly let it out. SEALs say the key is the deep breath out has to be twice as long as the breath up. And if you do a 1-2 breath, it's the fastest way to relax. That takes a lot of exercising to get to that level. And you can do it with 3, 4s, and 5-year-olds. You put them on the ground, you put a beanbag or a teddy bear on them, and you say, we're going to take a slow, deep breath. Kids want to breathe fast. They hyperventilate. You'll need a paper bag on them. So instead, no. Teddy bear gets scared when it's a fast breath. Go real slow. Oh, look how happy Teddy is when you breathe slowly down. Now breathe up, slowly down. I saw that with a group of 6-year-olds in a first grade class. In 3 minutes, half the class was asleep. This is the best thing I've ever seen. So there's something you can teach instantly. The whole goal of this, Angie, is teach simple little science-backed strategies that our kids can use now, but also without us. That's the goal. Because when the doors open and they're out in the real world, they're going to need thriver skills. And that's what the goal is.
You talk about how we need to let kids fail, but then
Yes.
also know how to fail, right?
The most interesting thing is what I discover with parents is, why don't you be a good loser? Doesn't work. But if you start showing, what I tell parents is, sit down, particularly with your older kid, and watch a football game or the Olympics together. Watch not the kid who wins. Watch the kid who loses. They're a testament of, you always see them. It isn't the person who wins that you remember. It's the person who loses and does it very ungracefully. They're dying for the rest of their lives on remember that moment.
You don't want to be remembered for that.
Yeah. But you got to model it, because I think there's so many skills in thrivers that very often we assume that parents know, like how to teach them problem solving, or how to teach them good listening, or how to teach them to lose gracefully. Those are the skills they need for life. And the best way is always showing, not telling.
Well, what you're saying, it kind of leads right into one of the other character strengths was the perseverance. And I remember you saying here that it is so important, that perseverance, isn't it? I think you have some facts in there about how it's one of the most important things you can do, right?
Yes, it is. Each one of the chapters and each one of these 7 strengths were chosen based on huge scientific data, and perseverance is highly correlated to, if not the most important, even more important than the GPA or the test score, because it's what gets the kids to that level. Now, here's what I'm hearing that I want you to worry about, Angie, is the number one question that I'm getting from parents right now is my kid is like hit the COVID wall. He's not motivated. He's not energized. How do I get him to persevere? And what I will warn you about is that each one of these strengths have what I call a multiplier effect. One strength alone does, like confidence alone isn't going to help. But if you add confidence plus curiosity, or confidence plus self-control, or confidence plus perseverance, or just three together, each one of them together multiplies. Each three together makes it into a superpower. Our children are having a tough time with perseverance right now because stress is building, and that's number three. So instead of hitting perseverance, go down 2 levels. Teach them how to manage the stress, because that's going to help them focus. Teach them how to manage the stress because it's going to stretch their attention span. Teach them to recognize, here's what I'm good at. That's my confidence, because now I can decompress. And you know, the fastest, most fun way to decompress right now? Put a sheet over your dining room table. Put pillows under there and put just flashlights in there. Put some books in there. And every night, maybe it's 7:00, everybody, and I'm talking littler kids, grab the dog, grab the cat, grab the kids, and just read. What you'll find is that it's a fabulous way to relax. It actually will help your children self-control, learn that how to stress manage. And by the way, that's highly correlated to perseverance. It'll give them the energy to keep going. When you get to perseverance and you have some of the other ones, one little tip is let's reframe success as a gain, not the end product of the 100%. But yesterday you were at 75%, or yesterday you got 7 right. Today, let's see if you can get 8. Then help them figure out how to get to 8. One little tip on that, getting to 8, I'm going to tell you my worst story ever. And that is my piano teacher, Mr. White. Oh my gosh, to this day, my blood pressure goes up. When I was 6, 7, 8, 9, I had to have Mr. White. He drove me crazy. He was fabulous, fabulous musician. What he would do is make you go through and play the piece. But wherever you made a mistake, I mean, 1 bar from the end, you had to start all over again. Now, what happened is I'd spend the entire time waiting for the mistake. My stress level was like, oh my gosh. And I hated music. I hated piano. Thank God I had Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson was my next teacher. And instead what she'd do is the takeaway for parents. She'd identify your one little stumbler. What's the one little thing you're having problems with? Now let's practice the one little thing, that one little stumbler, the one little thing that's maybe curtailing your child from getting to 7 to 8. Let's practice it. The one little thing that's prohibiting your child from getting the goal or making it through smooth on the spelling. You'd practice and practice and practice, relax. Then you'd start from the beginning. No stumbler. You'd keep on going. So that's what perseverance is. It's really breaking it down into smaller steps. There's lots of tools there, but it's helping our kids struggle less and shine more.
Do you have one tip to leave for parents?
One tip is make it intentional. It's not starting with the kid. It's starting with us. When we realize that this is doable, then Flip Through Thrivers find one tip that you think will work for your family. That's how you start this process. Even better, don't do it alone. We're all so lonely. Find another mom, find another dad, find another teacher, find your parenting partner, teach it to grandma. When you get anybody on board with you, you'll be so much better because all they need to do is reinforce it. The daycare worker, once a day, once a week, once a month, tell the teacher, we've got to shrink the village. And we got to get on board together, because together is how we raise up a group of strong kids, not trying to do it alone.
There are all kinds of resources on your website for teachers, how to implement it in the classroom. This is a new resource for me. Kids don't come with an instruction manual, but this helps.
Oh, thank you. What a compliment. God, Angie, that was the nicest thing ever, because that was my goal. Kind of like an updated, simple parenting manual based on late-breaking science. So we don't have time to do this wrong. It's one time to get it right. And we might as well look at what the science says will give us the best results for our kids.
For people who do want to pick up a copy, your very own copy to mark up and Post-it note up, you can get that at the Novel Neighbor. Michele, thank you. I have truly appreciated your time.
Thank you. It was an honor.